Hey, what's up, everybody? Pat here, grateful recovering alcoholic and addict, just like every day. Guys, please don't forget to subscribe, leave the video a like, drop me a comment, and by all means, share it with somebody who might get something out of it. Guys, proud day today. I got my 9 month, I don't know if you can see that, 9 month continuous sobriety chip today for my home group at AA. I was honored to be able to chair the meeting today. It was an incredible meeting, absolutely packed house, and a lot of people getting chips, and that's why I say, guys, recovery is the gift that does not stop giving, guys. I absolutely love my life today, and I strongly suggest anybody out there struggling, you got to understand, if you guys are willing to surrender and really put in the work, which gets easier and easier, it literally just becomes a lifestyle, and there's so many never-ending rewards. I love my life today. I love who I'm finding I am today, and I love the actions I take today. Therefore, I like the rewards or the consequences I get, and that's what we're going to talk about today: consequences. That's the name of the just for today, and a meditation reading. Consequences. Before we got clean, most of our actions were guided by impulse. Today, we are not locked into this type of thinking. Ever been tempted to do something even when you knew the results would be disastrous? Ever thought about how much it was going to hurt to do what you were tempted to do and then proceeded to do it anyway? I know I certainly have. It is said that there are consequences to every action. Before we got clean, many of us simply did not believe this. But now we know exactly what it means. When we act, we know there will be consequences to pay. No longer can we decide to do something in ignorance when we know full well that we won't like the price we have to pay. There's a prize and there's a price. It is okay to act despite the consequences if we are willing to pay the price, but there's always one to pay. Then the affirmation is, just for today, I will think about the consequences of my actions before I take them. Guys, I'm particularly happy with this reading. It's a short reading, but this is something that I never did, guys. And it's evident because I look back now at my life and I realize, and it's been amazing for me. First of all, let me stop and interject that pattern recognition is one of the most helpful things that I finally started paying attention to. And again, the more I do, the more I buy into it, the more I'm able to see and then correct. But what was I trying to say? I'm sorry, Frank. I interrupted myself. The and before I was never able to recognize the patterns. Right, when I was actively in addiction, because I was numbing myself, and I just didn't want to draw any attention to the things I was doing because it would just make me emotionally. I couldn't. I couldn't handle it because I was so. Everything I was doing was forcing me to live against my values, against what mattered to me, and that's no way to go through life. You're never gonna find happiness, and you're never gonna, you're never gonna be able to find enough drugs to fill a God-sized hole. And that's just one of my favorite slogans. But so because of that, I would just do these things over and over again, and reap the rewards from them over and over again. And like I was, somebody that was a gifted student, yet I didn't apply myself because it went well, and I didn't have a family, so I didn't have a great background. I didn't have a lot of good examples. So I acted out and just tried to draw attention because I didn't want people looking too closely. But I started getting into trouble for these things, and then that would put barriers in front of me, and yet I would go out and just try to continue doing the same thing to get the result that I wanted, taking the wrong actions for it, and just putting more and more barriers in front of it, still thinking I could just continue to do the same thing, and then somehow miraculously what I wanted was going to happen, even though if I stopped and looked at what I was doing and what I'd done before and what had happened when I did that before, I would have understood that this was going to happen again. And it's one thing to do that once or twice, but guys, I did this in cycles for decades, and wonder why things got worse and worse. Right? Not everybody goes through the lengths of bullshit that I put myself through, and it's one thing I notice in the meetings. And but there's so many. Nobody's stories are the same, but there's so many similarities. And I love when I see somebody that doesn't have to go to the extent that I did and then get it. But then I look at myself and I'm like, boy, did I have a thick head, And again, it was just because I never looked at things enough to understand that if I changed my actions, I would change my consequences. I didn't look, and somehow I just thought things would just, I don't know what I thought, but it didn't get me anywhere. So early on, I was able to understand that I needed to figure out the patterns, and thank God that came to me in some way. And then I took that Tony Robbins seminar about pattern recognition. Guys, it's changed my life. I finally understood that everything that was happening in my life was the direct consequences for the way that I was living my life. Like, I know it sounds simple enough when you're doing it, but in the moment, we manage to numb ourselves from it, and we don't, we don't think. We think we're the exception, or we can do what others don't have to follow, or, we think that won't happen to us until it happens to us. Guys, addiction does not discriminate. Like, it doesn't. As a matter of fact, the meeting today was absolutely amazing. I love when it's a full house like that, and so many people had talked, and there was, somebody there. Then again, I'm not going to name names, anonymity, but somebody there who talked about having a great career and had worked in the corrections department for, like, I don't know how long, but for, decades. And then all of a sudden, got into addiction and ended up back in jail for a weekend amongst her former coworkers. And fortunately, it seemed like that was a rock bottom enough for her that she's now into the program, and she's just getting in, so she's just getting started. But hopefully that was enough. Guys, I was somebody that was a gifted, intelligent kid who had, like, skills, and anything I applied myself to, I would ace, like, set records for everything. And yet, all of a sudden, I'm finding myself getting thrown in jail. I mean, if you had told me when I was 18 years old that I was about to start doing, jail time, and when I did my the first time I was sentenced to jail, I was under 21, 19 or 20 years old. I did like 90 days, and I didn't think, I'm like, nope, never again. I'm not going to drive without a license. I'm not going to do this, not going to do that. And I tried for a little while, but next thing you know, boom, I was right back into it. And then when I got that second one, I'm like, nope, nope. And the second one was, it was a longer one. I did a 2-year mandatory, and it was for an OUI. It was a high-speed crash, and I'd given away my keys that night, and that was enough for me to say, well, I can never drink again, and I haven't. Well, no, I'm sorry, no, that's not true. And when I finally went and did the time for that, I ran on the run for a couple of years, and I was drinking those couple of years. But when I did finally go and do those 2 years in jail, I've never had a drink since, because that was too big of a price to pay. So you would think at that point that I would never put myself in a position to go back to jail, right? And I didn't for a long time until my OUI suspension came up and I couldn't get my license back, and I'm being a mechanic. And I'm not even a full-time mechanic anymore. I find I had to give that up. But all the training, the college, everything I put into that, I finally understood I could no longer do it, because, guys, when I opened my shop and a cop found out I didn't have a license, he would just wait up the street and see me drive. And again, I used to blame them for that, right? And yet here I am, driving to work every day, driving cars, knowing full well that there's a cop around the corner looking for me. And guys, I ended up getting like 37 driving on suspensions and got thrown in jail for it like 15 or something. I'm sorry, probably about 10 or 12 different times. 30 days here, 60 days there, 90 days there, and just started, climbing. Like, the consequences, I knew what they were, and yet I just kept doing it and then blaming other people for that. That is absolutely insane, and it is amazing that I was able to delude myself enough to think that something was gonna, like, I literally knew, and yet because addiction, I couldn't change it, and I wasn't willing to. No, that's not true. I could change it. I wasn't willing to put in the work at that point, and if I just stopped and look at it, and actually, but that's the thing, guys. When our heads all clouded in addiction, we're not able to make common sense out of something that's literally common sense. What I was doing was not working, yet I just kept putting my head down and ramming my head through the wall, thinking that somehow something different was going to happen. And eventually, I burnt that to the ground to the point that I was in and out of jail so often, and then I got into a car accident, and I got hooked on the drugs, and then just I'm running a business, working 80, 90 hours a week for myself, making good money, and couldn't afford to buy a sandwich. Nobody wanted me around. It was a nightmare. I walked away, ended up being homeless for years. When somebody broke in and somebody stole my tools because I walked away and had a warrant, couldn't go back and get them. Guys, I made an absolute mess of that, and I want to blame everybody else but myself. Now, yes, there were other bad people involved, but I aligned myself with those bad people because I was more concerned with doing drugs and going where the drugs were to be found than I was with, with hanging around with people that I didn't despise and I didn't, that I knew weren't just horrible, horrible people who would stab you in the back and rob you at the same time, or, they'd steal your wallet and then help you look for it, but I knew this and I kept doing it, and I eventually had to accept the consequences whether I liked it or not, right? So then I moved out here to Somerville, and I got I had a fresh start. And immediately I started, I just went down the wrong path. After getting clean and begging a judge to put me in jail for 6 months to get clean and going to a halfway house and doing well for a while, I wasn't working a spiritual program. So when I was left to my own, when I started thinking about the totality of everything I'd lost, my family, this, that, blah, 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 I would be overwhelmed, and just, it would depress me, and I'd be in such a low state that I had no defense against the drugs. And literally, I was working one day and somebody come walking over. It's like, hey, what are you doing working here? I was in the city, and he's like, hey, offered me a free bag of heroin. And boom, there I go. Next thing you know, 10 more years of my life go down the drain. I damn near end up dead. Thank God, this time around, thank God, because that is the difference, guys. I invited God into my life before I got clean, because I was at a point where that was my official run. I've had many, many rock bottoms, guys. I would have sworn to you that was rock bottom so many different times. But this last time, I got into a point where I hated the person I was. I had lost all hope. And in that loss of hope for myself, I finally adopted willingness, because there was that little spark that when I said that prayer that night, I started to feel something. I started to feel aligned with something. I started to get a little hope. And I continued to pray, right? So as much as I had no hope in myself, clearly I had hope for something, and that's faith. I had faith that I didn't even know I had, because I continued to pray and ask for help. Yet I didn't believe there was any hope out there for me, or any help out there for me. Or nothing. At least I knew there was nothing I could do, but I wanted better. So when I continued to pray, I started getting a little bit of strength, or not even strength, a little bit of guidance. And all it was introspection. It started making me look at my actions. And that was terrible, guys. It was great, but it was a hard thing, guys. I was so lost. I was so confused. I literally just, every day it got harder and harder to push that snowball up the hill and shovel the water or shovel the shit against the tide, because I'd come home at night and I would pray again, God, show me your path for me. Let me walk in your light. And then I'd try and go back out and walk in the darkness every day. And that couldn't happen. So finally I started getting these messages and downloads. I was starting to see the consequences, right? And so I started getting warned, okay, if you don't pay your rent, we're going to throw you out this time. I'm going to be done with you. But if you go to rehab, I'll give you a chance. And it was all because I was asking God for help. And he was offering me the help, and I was trying not to take it. I thought I could find an easier, softer way. Thought I could talk my way out of it. Guys, I couldn't. I literally tried to detox here at home, thinking because I'd said a prayer that I could go lay in bed for 3 days and get up and just continue on with it. And that's the thing, guys. Even if I had, I would have gone right back to the job. I would have had no form of recovery program to work. There's no way I would have stayed clean for 10 seconds. So God did what I needed. He gave me what I needed. Somebody to kick in my door and drag me to a hospital and then throw me in a rehab. But I actually called for the bed myself after they dragged me to the hospital, and I came home and I thought about it. I said, you know what, this is it, literally, because I've been praying. It came to me. God showed me the pattern. This is the help that you're asking for. Take it. So I said, okay. I adopted the willingness to surrender. I decided that the consequences, because I was looking at them for once. I was actually able to look and say, I spent 4 years on the street. I don't want to do that again. That's a consequence I'm not willing to accept. Okay, well, if you're not willing to accept, what do you got to do? Well, I have to burn it to the ground and walk into rehab and start fresh. And guys, that's what I did. And I am so incredibly grateful that I did. I mean, at the time, it was tough because I didn't know what was going to happen. Now, I've got 9 months of continuous sobriety. And, guys, it's hard to believe that this has only been 9 months. It's hard to believe that, like, I literally wake up every morning. And as soon as my conscious brain kicks in, I smile because I understand that. Because a lot of times I'm at that stage where I don't really remember my dreams, but I must be having a lot of drug dreams and a lot of dreams of my old life. Because I'll wake up in the morning and be in that subconscious mind where I was reliving something that I've been through. And I think it's just my brain dealing with all the traumatic experiences that I've been through. But that is a gift, because the second I snap into reality, I go, oh, this is my life today. And I literally get out of bed feeling with a smile, because, guys, I don't deal with that shit anymore. Like, I have a business, I've got a stable home, I'm chairing an AA, I run a recovery network on my YouTube. I'm proud of the person that I am. I get accolades. I got a text today from one of my customers. I said, Pat, I love that every time I text you, I know I can count on you, and it's the same amazing work every single time. Guys, that's not who I was. You never knew if I was going to answer the phone, if I was going to show up, if I was going to be capable of doing the job, if I was going to have the stock you gave me the money for. But today, they do. They know if they reach out, and I first of all, they know they reach out, I'm going to answer, and then I'm going to take care of it, and it's going to get done to the highest standards in the fastest time for the best price. I love that today, guys. I'm honored to be the person I am today, but it's because I finally understood that if I didn't like the consequences, I had to stop taking the action, and I have that choice today. Today, I look at my choice. I look at my options and say, okay, which one's going to give me the consequence that I want, or is going to make the biggest impact for positivity around me, and that's the action that I take. And it's amazing today, guys. Like, any one of you can do this. You've just got to adopt the willingness. You've got to find the power of surrender. You've got to find your higher power, not just oh, it's a ham sandwich. No, find out what it is that you believe in. We're all a part of something. We all have faith in some way. Find yours. Give yourself a chance. And again, not a 30-second chance. It's frustrating to me when somebody says, well, I tried this twice and it didn't work. For me, I put 40 years of nonsense out there, right? It took a little bit of time to get over those barriers. But the second I adopted full surrender and invited miracles into my life by aligning myself and giving reverence and thanks and finding a state of gratitude for the blessings that I did have, for the fact that I was still alive, the fact that my apartment got saved and I didn't end up homeless on the street, and I didn't, it's the moment I adopted a state of gratitude, things started getting better and better and better and better. And now they're shockingly good. It's Friday. I'm totaling up the slips I have for my business for the week, and I won't throw figures out there, but guys, I just made more money in a week than I made in 6 months last year. And that is just opening doors of opportunities. But here's the thing. I don't go out and buy shiny trinkets with it. I put it in the bank and say, okay, I've got long-term goals. I want to own property. And it's actually a reality today, guys. And it's going to start rambling again. Video's getting a little long. You understand the point? Guys, look at the consequences. Look at the consequences you're receiving. And then look at the actions you took that got you there. And then just all it takes is just before you act, stop and decide. Is this something that's going to help me? Is this something that's going to be good for my life? Or am I going to do this for this instant gratification and then have to pay all this crap down the road that's not worth it? And if it's not, then don't do it. Take a different choice. Be the best version of you ever have. Watch what happens. I'm telling you, it's shockingly good what is going on. I'm literally in love with the life that I'm leading today, the opportunities I'm getting, the person that I'm finding. That's the biggest thing, guys. I finally, for once in my life, like the person that looks back at me in the mirror. And that is the biggest gift I could ever get. Guys, thank you so much for being here. That's the other thing. Because this channel's taken a long time to grow. This isn't a fast-growing channel. The summertime views have dropped way down, but you know what? I said that's okay. Things take time, and I didn't get discouraged. I keep coming every day. I just, in the last 2 weeks, I've gone from getting 10 to 20 views a day to getting between 700 and 1,500 views a day. When you're consistently and take good action and just show up doing the same good work every day, things will get better. I promise you they will. Guys, thank you so much for being here. Always remember, God loves you. I love you. We'll see you in the next one.